Hey everybody, Miss Amira here. I am an intention coach. I am an end-of-life doula, an anti-racism student, community activist, and today I want to talk about perfectionism and white supremacy. I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine today, and we were talking about perfectionism, and I was trying to articulate why perfectionism is an issue and how it impacts people. And sometimes as I'm studying, as I'm an anti-racism student, sometimes as I'm studying, I'm reading something and I get it. I can understand it immediately, but I may not know how to articulate it, which is why I'm really glad that I am in a 3-month program right now. It's an anti-racism facilitator trainer program that I started last week, and it's 3 months, and I'm very, very excited. So I was looking online, the definition, or just looking up just perfectionism and white supremacy. And so all these different things were popping up. One of the first things that popped up, which I cannot find right now. So instead of trying to be a perfectionist and spend hours looking for it, I just decided to do it anyway. So one of the pieces that I saw was, it was saying where the word came from. It was talking about white supremacy, and it was saying how the word Caucasian came from a German scientist, I don't recall the name, in the 1700s. He wrote an article of some sort, and he coined the word Caucasian, and it meant, I wish I had it in front of me, but it meant superior or better than, and it set a standard that anything other than a cis white male, which is a male, born a male at birth and feels like a male, is a cis male. I'm a cis woman. I feel like a woman. I am a cis woman, right? So it gave this idea that perfectionism was a white man, right? So anything outside of that, it explains, it was less than. So that includes women. Women had to fight like heck for their rights. Indigenous people, the disabled community, they were tortured, right? The LGBTQ community, they were tortured. Like anything that's not white, and it's a system that's been built within that you have to act this way to be okay, right? And all of us, including myself as a Black person, I also have this system built in me, which today I kept making fun of myself because I typically at this stage in my hair, when I braid my hair, when it gets to this stage, I start wearing a hat or a beanie or a scarf because the new growth, this is called new growth, you usually want to cover that up because it doesn't look nice and pretty and proper, right? So I've been purposely, intentionally, because I am an anti-racism student, I'm never going to stop learning. Even if I'm teaching other people about it, I'm never going to stop learning. And so when I see a bias, and another thing about perfection, last week when I did my Monday video, I was saying biases. The word itself is new to me in my life this year, and I was saying biases. I was saying the word wrong. And after I recorded, I realized I was saying the word wrong. And I would have normally just deleted the video and redid the whole entire video because I was saying biases. Oh my gosh. What a dilemma. I was saying biases. Everyone's going to think I'm a total idiot. Oh my gosh. That's typically what I do. But I was like, you know what? I'm acknowledging the bias I have. I'm acknowledging the white supremacy within me. I'm acknowledging it. I know I want to go cover this up. But you know what? I'm not going to. I'm going to fight it. And so along my journey, as I'm looking through stuff, I found this other article. This is from... It's called ditchperfect.com. Look her up. I actually already, as soon as I started reading this article, I reached out. You know how I am. I reached out to her, emailed her, asked her if we can connect because I want to interview her. She is a coach. She's a perfectionist coach. And so there was an article that pulled up about white supremacy and perfectionism. And so she wrote this article, and I'm just going to read some of it. It's very lengthy. It's very thick. I'm just going to read some of it. I haven't even read the whole thing, but these are just the things that popped out at me. So she says, after studying and learning and doing the inner work, here's what's true for me. Solidarity and perfectionism don't mix. They're like oil and water. As you do this work as like an anti-racist or trying to be an anti-racist student, you begin to see white supremacy in the ways in which it affects us, right? And you begin to open up your mind in a new way, and you see things a little bit more open, a little less judgmental and perfectionism, right? And so it does feel very separate when you have people who are in that white supremacy mind frame. All people, black, white, whoever, it makes you feel like you're in a cage, like you're being boxed in. The people are like, you didn't do that right. You didn't do, it doesn't feel like solidarity. It doesn't feel like this is my comrade. It feels like someone is picking you apart, right? That's the feeling that it feels. So that's what stood out to me there. She says, after studying and learning and doing the inner work, here's what's true for me. Solidarity and perfectionism don't mix. They're like oil and water. Part of what perfectionism seeks to protect against is failure, mistakes, the perception of wrongness plus criticism. Being an ally requires a baseline, the ability to receive feedback, and the willingness to operate from an I can't know what this is like for others mindset. Perfectionism makes practicing this incredibly difficult because when we seek to be perfect, it's harder for us to accept when we've caused harm. When someone you love tells you when you do that, it hurts me, whether it was your intention or not, you let them know that that was not your intent, at least, right? Even if they're wrong, it's really hard when you're trying to put on this front of perfection to see anything wrong. You were trying so hard to stay perfect and nice and neat that you can't even open up your mind enough to see where you could have harmed another human. Powerful. There's no such thing as a perfect ally. Imperfection is the baseline and the constant of what it means to attempt to behave and take action in solidarity with an oppressed group of people when you have not lived their history or experience, plus when you are not affected in the same way by the same systems of oppression. Okay? This isn't to say that perfectionists are oppressors or racist or white supremacists, but it is to offer that you have perfectionist tendencies, plus you aspire to be a contributor to racial equity and social justice efforts. Some of your behaviors are likely in tension with your aspirations. If this article didn't speak to me more true than anything in my life right now, there's another quote. It says, perfectionism requires a cage. Liberation requires that walls be torn down. When you are becoming anti-racist, if you're doing the inner work, and that's why people can't fake this stuff. You can't fake that you're woke. You can't fake that you're anti-racist, because when you are doing the work, the inner work, you start to begin to see where you're biased, and you start to look within in a loving way, and you work on the things. It's really difficult to learn about white supremacy because you realize how you've contributed to it. So if you're not loving yourself first, if you're not loving all of who you are, even the parts that aren't good, you're not going to be open to learning truly how to be anti-racist, because you have to look within. You have to go in first before you try to educate others. You have to at least be actively going inward and doing the work yourself. You cannot use I am this because I have friends that are that, or do whatever. You have to go within and do the work, right? So another thing that I highlighted says, Through embracing imperfection in ourselves and others, we disrupt white supremacy culture. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to make mistakes. The important part is to deal with it head on, right? When I'm in a situation, if I'm in the wrong, even if I'm in the wrong, I want to deal with it head on. I don't want to mask the realities of things to make it look another way. That doesn't help the situation. That makes it mucky and dirty and nasty. Right? But if we have self-love and we're not trying to be this perfect being and we're trying to get away from white supremacy culture, that we're going to recognize those things and do better. That's it. Just have compassion for yourself. Understand if you're trying to do work of any kind, perfectionism is not your friend. Perfectionism is not a real thing. And I do want to say that the woman in the article that I was talking about, she's a white woman as well. I want to bring up this other story because it pertains to perfectionism, which I didn't even realize. I was at a training, right? I was at my training for my first. It wasn't the first day of training. It was the first half day practicum for my anti-racism training. So there's, I don't know, a handful of us in the class. I don't know if there's 9. I don't know the number. And we each had our own part. We got our parts the week before, 5 days before, something like that. We all had our parts. I knew the part I was doing. And the day before, they said, hey, can you do this part instead? I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't even see what it was. I just knew I was going to look it over and it would be fine, whatever it is, even if I did it messed up or whatever. But I'm typically pretty good at, like, if I know the information or if I have the information, I could usually read through it and at least get a gist of it so I can articulate the information. So I felt fine. But what I realized is as we were going on, it was like we were each an actual real facilitator doing the presentation. As we were going on in that section, I realized, oh, I'm not doing this entire section. I'm only doing a sliver of the section. But when I looked at it and studied it, I was studying it for the whole section. So my notes and everything that I had in my head were, right there ready. I was ready to go. Well, by the time I realized, oh my gosh, okay, this next person's doing that one part that I would have done. Oh no, this next person's doing the part I was going to do. Oh my gosh. So then it got to my part. All I was doing with that whole thing, it was a 5-step system. And all I was doing, it was a shared screen with the 5 steps. And all I was doing was saying step number 1 is blah. Step number 2 is blah. Step number 3 is blah. But in my mind, I could not get it out of my mind, all of my notes and all of the things that I was going to say, because it tells you to, compare the story to your real life. Like that's, normal. I was having all the stories in my mind. And even though it was different, my brain could not compartmentalize it. And I literally was like, there was a point where I was going to try to fake it till I made it. And then I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to take a step back. I was crying. Tears were in my eyes. I was literally visibly upset. And I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I said, I also want to acknowledge I'm having an issue with feeling like I'm a loser right now because I'm doing this in front of everyone. But I did not want to fake it. I couldn't fake it. I tried to fake it and something inside of me was like, bitch, stop faking it. And I just couldn't do it. And I sat there feeling so vulnerable, feeling like I had a spotlight sticking on me. And I just stopped and took a breath. And by the time I glanced up, everybody was looking at me with compassion. It was fine. It was not a big deal. And they were like, actually, we appreciate that you just stopped and you were real. Actually, thank you. You know what I mean? I've never done that before. I normally will just keep going and fake it till I make it because of that perfection thing. It's whack. I have it too. I have it too. You know, there's times where I get dressed for the day and I walk past the mirror and I'm like, no, not doing it. No, you don't look right. There's times where I change my shoes because it doesn't look right. You know, even if I'm in joggers and a t-shirt, there's certain times where I want to look a certain way. It's okay, but it's about recognizing it. And when you're an activist, especially when you're an anti-racist, you can't fake it. It's not fakeable, and you shouldn't want to fake it. So, anyways, feel free to leave me comments. You know, hopefully any of my errors or stutters or whatever don't bug anybody. But if it did, I challenge you to just be okay with it. You know, just be okay with it. And I hope you have an amazing week. Set your intentions. Love yourself first. And you know what? Activism is a beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to be faked. Keep it real. Do the work. Love you guys.